Welcome. Now, this is the fifth flow practice in the element flow series, and that lands us at the ether element. So ether is the vastness of space. It's the void. It's what holds all the other elements. How do we represent it in our body? It's not necessarily an easy relationship to find just offhand. What we're going to be doing is working towards headstand. So don't worry if you haven't practiced headstand before. There's going to be a lot of steps moving up to it. And also, if you're not comfortable with doing headstand at all, to know that there's going to be options all along the way, and you will get a lot out of this practice otherwise. But headstand does put some pressure at the crown of our head, and this is the home of the Sahasrara chakra, our crown chakra, which represents the ether and space element of our body, the unlimited potential, and how we connect with a greater whole. And so we're going to be working towards this as being really the center point of foundation. And yeah, we'll just experience it in our body as we go. So let's begin with mountain pose. Bring your arms by your sides. Bring yourself over the arches of your feet and spread your toes. And then let's create space by lifting up through the center of your chest and up through the back edges of your ears, up through the crown of your head. Begin to breathe deeply in and out through your nose. So your breath creates spaciousness in your body. And it also helps to create a very steady sense of the passage of time. Now, the next time you breathe in, sweep your arms up overhead. And as you exhale, with a soft bend in your knees, bow forward to Uttanasana. As you inhale, come up halfway. And then breathe out to step your right foot back and bring your right knee down to the mat. Push down through your left foot. Slowly lift your body, raise your arms up, low lunge. Now take your left hand, grab your right wrist, lift up through the top of your head, and then take your hips slightly to the right so you can lean over to the left. Take nice slow breaths into the right side of your rib cage, and try to keep your left hip drawn back and down. As you inhale, lift back up, release your right wrist, instead bend your right elbow and take your left hand onto the top of your right elbow. So nudge your right elbow in, bring your right hand to your upper back and lengthen down through your back body, lift up through your chest, but also lift up through the back edges of your ears so your neck feels quite stable. And stay steady again with your breath. Gradually release your arms, lean forward, bring your hands down. Tuck your right toes under, lift your right knee up, walk your hands back so your left leg gets a little straighter, and then try to lift your right heel up nice and high so your hips tip up a little bit further, and roll your left hip back, hug your right inner thigh forward. And as you push down through your hands, lengthen the center of your chest forward so your spine is long, and when you breathe out, bow towards your left leg. Keep moving with your breath where the inhale creates length again, and the exhale moves you in closer. So you can take a couple more of these on your own. One more inhale. But as you exhale, bend your left knee, bring your hands under your shoulders, step back, downward facing dog. Okay, just take a moment to spread your fingers wide and settle into an even foundation from left to right. Okay, now as you inhale, ripple forward into plank pose. Your knees can always be elevated or on the mat. And as you exhale, bend your elbows. Let's lower all the way down. Untuck your toes. Cobra, Bhujangasana on the inhale. And then as you exhale, bring yourself all the way back down. Now tuck your toes under, press your knees down firmly, and come up to your hands and knees. Move your hips back just enough that you can place your elbows underneath your shoulders, and then clasp your hands out ahead of you, all 10 fingers clasped. With your toes tucked, lift your lower belly up and hover your knees away from the mat. And so we're requiring just a little bit of extra core strength. And this isn't full-on forearm plank pose. It's more like a tabletop shape on your forearms. Now with an inhale, roll your shoulders back, bring your chest forward. As you exhale, look back towards your kneecaps and round your spine. Inhale, chest forward, shoulders back. And exhale, look back, lift your belly button up. 2 more, and inhale. And an exhale. And 1 more, breathing in. And breathing out. Okay, so as you inhale, do keep breathing. Let's come back to down dog. You can set your knees to the mat if you like, or if you can do it with your knees hovering, then go ahead. Okay, now with your next breath in, float your left leg up, 3-legged dog. Step your left foot forward, up towards your left hand. Warrior 1, spin your right heel to the ground, lift your upper body, and if your arms need a break, you can take your hands to heart center. You can also raise your arms, and in doing so, your hands can be parted or they can be closer. They can also be all the way in together with your fingertips clasped again, except for your index finger. So lift up through the top of your head, and if your fingertips are reaching up to, try to keep that even extension up towards the sky through the tips of your fingers. Meanwhile, recognize your foundation, press down firmly through your feet, hug them in towards each other. So you've got a nice steady grip on your mat. Check in with your breath, that it's flowing deeply. Let's take a couple more. And the next time you breathe out, bring your hands to your hips, spin your right heel away from the ground, lean forward. We're going to come to step forward onto your left foot alone and bring your right knee up towards hip height. Now place your palms onto the top of your right thigh and lift your right thigh up into your hands. Meanwhile, push your right thigh down. And so you're using some strength through your core and hip flexors. And then if you wish, you can even straighten out your right leg and just keep pushing down and lifting up. So that's a fair bit more for your hip flexors to do. No, thank you. I know one leg I'd be able to do that fine. The other leg, there may be a question mark. So we'll stay with the bent knee. Okay, and then lower your right foot to the ground. Bring your arms by your sides, just a little bit of ease as you meet mountain pose. Okay. Follow your next inhale. Lift your arms, lift up through the crown of your head. And as you exhale, bow forward, Uttanasana. Inhale to a halfway lift, creating space. As you exhale, step your left foot back, lower your left knee to the mat. So rise up with an inhale, and then it's up to you to keep breathing deeply, but we'll move into a side body stretch first. Bring your right hand to your left wrist, reach up and bring your hips slightly to the left so you can lean to the right. Keep your right foot pushing down firmly. Keep your right hip rolled back, your tailbone lengthening down. When you find yourself breathing in again, come back upright. This time, bend your left elbow. Take your right hand to your left elbow, and then nudge your elbow in. Bring your left hand down, and try to lengthen in a downward direction through your back body, except for the back edges of your ears. Lift them up. And release your arms, lean forward. Bring your hands down to blocks or the ground, and with your back toes tucked, lift your left knee. Walk your hands back, edge your right leg straighter, a little straighter, and then roll your right hip back, lift up high through your left heel, so the back of your pelvis tips up a little bit more, and try to squeeze your inner thighs in towards each other. And then with an inhale, lengthen your chest forward. As that turns to an exhale, bow towards your right leg. So you can keep this motion going, the fluidity of moving with your breath, which may help you approach your right leg a little bit closer. Time you find you're breathing in, you can follow that up by bending your right knee. Get low to the ground, bring your hands down, downward facing dog. Okay. Now moving with an inhale, slowly ripple forward into plank pose. And as you exhale, bend your elbows. Let's come down all the way again. Untuck your toes with straight legs, push up to cobra pose. And then on the exhale, lower down all the way. Curl your toes under, bring your knees down, lift up to your hands and knees. Bring your hips back enough that you can set your elbows underneath your shoulders. Clasp your hands again. You roll your shoulders back so your upper back is firm. With your toes tucked under, hover your knees away from the mat. Okay, this first one, you may want to look forward towards the screen. We're going to inhale this way. But as you exhale, straighten your legs, lift your hips, tuck your chin in, and look back towards your toes. Then as you inhale, bend your knees again. So you come back to the hovering tabletop shape. With the exhale, straighten your legs, look back to your toes. And then a couple more times, where I welcome you, as you look to your toes, you could even touch the crown of your head down to the mat. And that's going to give you a little bit of a light sensation that we'll be working with further as we approach headstand. Let's do one more. The next time your knees come towards the ground, just rest them down all the way so you can return calmly to all fours. We'll move back to downward facing dog with your hips up and back. Okay. So from down dog, float your right leg up to three-legged dog. And then step your right foot forward to your right hand. Spin your back heel to the ground, warrior one. Raise your arms. And that could be raising them to heart center or the full way up. Arms wide, shoulders down, or your hands closer. Maybe your shoulders lift up a little more. If you wish, again, interlace your fingers with your index finger pointed up. But as you lengthen down through your tailbone, lift up through the top of your head. If you're reaching up, that's up through your fingertips. Nice and steady with your breath. To your hips. Lean forward, spin your left heel away from the ground. Step forward onto your right foot, lift your left knee up, flex your left foot, take your palms onto the top of your left thigh. So try to actively lift your left leg up into your hands, push down through your left thigh. And if you wish, you can extend your left leg forward, keeping that downward pressure through your leg and an upward lift through your thigh bone. And do hug your inner thighs towards each other as well, so you're containing the balance, containing your center of gravity. Okay, and then let's release. So set your left foot down to the ground, bring your arms down by your sides, just a moment or two to relax and to feel a sense of ease. Meanwhile, lifting up through the top of your head. And then to flow again with an inhale, raise your arms. With an exhale, bend your knees, sit down in chair pose. Shift your weight into your left foot, lift your right heel, lift your right toes, step back, high lunge. Wiggle out your stride a little when you arrive. Make sure your feet feel hip-width distance apart. Lengthen down through your tailbone, very much like warrior one. Lift up through the top of your head. But if you'd like to add a little more back bend, you're most welcome to lean back and try to keep spaciousness through the back of your neck. Your breath still with you in the pose. And one more breath in. And just when you end up breathing out, come upright, take your arms extended wide like airplane wings, lean forward. We're headed to warrior three, so maybe you shorten your stride a little bit and then press forward onto your left foot. So know you can bring your hands underneath your shoulders anytime. As you raise your right leg, try to raise through your inner right thigh, keep your right toes turned down. And even though you're lifting your right leg, hug your inner thighs in towards each other. Okay. Now let's change our arms. Do reach your fingertips down, bend your left knee, step your right toes back, bring your hands right underneath your shoulders. You can come onto your right fingertips or your right palm, but sweep your left fingertips wide and up towards the ceiling. And then roll your shoulders back and away from your ears. And try to hug your left hip back so you're using the strength of your outer left hip and draw your right inner thigh forward. Okay, Now let's just reposition our right hand. On the second side, I'll get you to do this right away. Walk your right fingertips forward a little bit so your right wrist has a bit more space. And then roll to the outer edge of your right foot and turn your left foot towards the left side of your mat also. So basically both of your feet are turned now to the long side of your mat. Still, try to hug your inner thighs in towards each other and draw the bottom tips of your shoulder blades down your back. Steady through your right hand now. Walk your left foot a few inches down your mat, just heel toe it back until you can safely rest your right hip down on the mat. Turn towards the back of your mat, recenter yourself, and then come to lie down on your back. Once you're on your back, elevate your feet so the soles of your feet face towards the ceiling. Take your fingertips lightly around the back of your head, and then draw your elbows in towards each other, and so your elbows are just above your shoulders, and tuck your shoulder blades down your back. Now keep your left leg where it is, but start to lower your right heel towards the back of your mat. About halfway is good. Hug your inner thighs in towards each other. Now here we'll breathe in. As you exhale, try to curl your tailbone up and move your feet a little closer to the front of your mat. And then inhale, down your tailbone goes. And then exhale, curl up. Okay, so there's the pattern. Keep moving with your own breath, your own pace. Definitely difficult to talk while doing this, so I'll just be quiet for a little bit. Okay, how about one more? Great. Now, reach your fingertips towards the back of the mat. Your legs can stay the same, but a little rocking motion back and forth until you can come up to your seat. And then cross your left heel over your right one. So it's almost like you're headed to a cross-legged shape. Reach your right hand towards the front of your mat. Lift up your heels, spin on your toes, downward facing dog. And if you got a little lost in the transition there, no problem, downward facing dog it is. Okay. Now, as you breathe in, float your left leg up, three-legged dog. And as you breathe out, step your left foot forward up to your left hand. Coming back to warrior one, spin your right heel to the ground, lift your upper body. Now we're going to take our arms in a similar shape that we had them just as you're lying on your back. So take your fingertips lightly to the back of your head. But as you breathe in, send your elbows wide, nice and open across your chest. And then as you exhale, squeeze through your front body, bring your elbows closer. Inhale to open, and exhale to close. So there's the pattern, do 3 more. One more. Great. Now reach your fingertips forward, spin your right heel away from the ground, and as you lean forward, bring your hands right down, standing splits. So lift up through your right inner thigh. As you inhale next time, lengthen your chest forward. But as you exhale, bow towards your left leg. If you wish, your left hand can wrap around your left calf, hug you in towards your shin bone as you try to lift your right leg a little higher. If you notice your right toes turning out towards the side, try to roll your toes down and hug your right inner thigh up. And then lift up through your chest, bring your left hand down, step back into a lunge stride, and then step your left foot back, also downward facing dog. Okay, come forward onto your knees. Just take a moment to pause. And then move your left hand over to the right, bend your left elbow until your left forearm can come down. Walk your right foot back until your leg is straight and spin your right heel flat so you're nice and steady through your right foot. Lift your left leg, extend your left foot wide off the right side of your mat. If you know fallen triangle pose, it's a little like this. Now roll your left shoulder back, lift up through your right arm. When you inhale, lift your hips up a little higher. When you exhale, bring your hips down about 1 inch. Inhale to lift, pushing through your right foot, and then exhale down. Try 2 more. Okay, now definitely bring your right hand down, bend your left knee, set your left knee to the mat, back to all fours, back to downward facing dog. Okay, a well-deserved clearing breath. Take a slow inhale, a long exhale. Great. And bend your knees, look forward, maybe you walk, step, or hop forward, come up to a halfway lift. And then a forward fold. And then rise up to stand, just take your time. Come to mountain pose, take a few breaths, allow yourself to be upright again. Settle down through your shoulders. And to create a sense of lightness and spaciousness in your body, lift up through the top of your head. Okay. Ready? Inhale, raise your arms. Exhale, bend your knees. All right, chair pose. Now shift your weight towards your right foot, lift your left heel, lift your left foot, and then step your left foot back. A high lunge, let your toes land. Maybe you want to wiggle out your stride a little bit more, or even take your feet a little bit wider, and then lunge your right knee over your heel. Lengthen down through your tailbone, lift up through your chest. Reach up through the crown of your head and your fingertips. If you wish, you can also create a little bit of a lean back. When you feel that next exhale, then come back upright, take your arms down and then off to the side. Settle your shoulder blades down, lean forward, heading to warrior three. So maybe you shorten your stride for a moment before you lift off onto your right foot. Flex your left foot, turn your left toes down, and slowly hinge at your right hip crease. Know that gravity is drawing your shoulders down, so try to lift up through the front of your shoulders and slide your shoulder blades down your back. Okay. Let's bring our hands down first. Reach down, bend your right knee, make a landing in a runner's lunge. So walk your left hand forward, and then bring your left palm down to the ground. Then sweep your right fingertips wide and lift your right arm up. Try to hug your right hip back. So again, you're engaging your outer hip, and draw your left inner thigh forward. And then move your shoulder blades down your back. Maybe there's a little more length you can eke through your neck. Okay, and then gradually roll onto the outer edge of your left foot. Turn your right foot to the right also, so both feet are facing the long right side of your mat. Press down really firmly through the finger pads of your left hand. Lift through the center of your chest. Lift up through your right arm. Okay. Now take a look down at your right foot. Heel toe your right foot back a few inches. Put a little bend in your left elbow so you can safely bring your left hip down. Turn towards the back of your mat, center yourself on your mat, lie down on your back. Raise your feet over your hips, wrap your fingertips lightly around the back of your head, hug your elbows in towards each other. Your right leg stays up, your left leg lowers about halfway. Now here's an inhale. As you exhale, curl your tailbone up, your feet move a little towards the front edge of your mat. Back and forth you go. With a special emphasis on the exhalation, that's where most of the work is happening, but also hug your belly button down towards your spine. And try to keep your elbows hugging in towards each other. Couple more. Right. Okay. Keep your legs lifted like this. Reach your fingertips towards the back of your mat, a little rocking motion to come up to sit, and then cross your right ankle over your left ankle, almost like you're headed to cross-legged, but then reach your left hand towards the front of your mat, lift your heels, spin on the balls of your feet, downward facing dog. Okay. Now raise your right leg up, step your right foot forward, warrior one, spin your back heel to the ground, lift your upper body. Same thing we just did with our arms, fingertips light to the back of your head, lunge deep into your right knee, and inhale, takes your elbows wide, and exhale, hugs them in. 4 more. And then reach your fingertips forward, spin your left heel away from the ground, lean forward. We're heading to standing splits, lift off. Bring your hands down under your shoulders. Turn your left toes down, lift through your left inner thigh. Both hands can stay on blocks or the ground, or your right hand can wrap around your right calf and hug the center of your chest in towards your right shin bone. And try to keep your left toes turned down. Your right hand is lifted, bring your right hand down, lift your chest, bend your right knee, a runner's lunge. Step your feet back. Okay, bring your right foot back also from plank. Take your knees down for a moment. Bring your right elbow down, your right hand towards the left side of your mat. So you're on your right forearm. Extend your left leg, spin your left heel flat, and then lift your right knee, send your right foot wide off the side of your mat. Your left hand can come to your hip or reach up overhead. Now inhale, push away from the ground. As you exhale, lower your hips by about an inch. Inhale to lift. Yeah, let's do 3 more. 2 more from here. Hugging your inner thighs in. Okay. So as you complete, just lift your hips a little, bring your left hand down right to the ground to help support you. Bend your right knee. Come back up to your hands and knees. And just take a moment to look forward. Okay, so this would be a good time to put your computer on pause if you'd like to come up to a wall as some extra support. And so you'll be turning your mat in towards the wall if you're taking that shape. We're going to move in towards headstand. And if you don't feel like working with headstand today, I'll give you just a little variation instead. What you'll do is your elbows underneath your shoulders, clasp your hands, bring your knees back, but your knees wider, and tuck your toes, lift your knees up, try to straighten out your legs, roll your shoulders back, and then look back and just hover your head off the ground. Now you can walk your feet forward if you like. That's going to bring your center of gravity forward. Sometimes it's called frog headstand, so you're actually not right on your head, but you can play with a little bit of weight transfer if you like. Okay, now moving towards full headstand. So again, you might be up a wall if you feel that you're going to perhaps roll forward. That'll help save you. All right, bring your elbows down. Let's do this together. Clasp your hands. Okay, so let's start from that hands and knees shape. So your knees are underneath your hips to start. Curl your toes under, and then tuck your chin in towards your chest, and bring the back of your head down to the base of your thumbs. And so the crown of your head comes towards the mat. Now with your toes curled under, lift your knees up and walk your feet closer in towards your elbows. And before doing anything else, I'd like you to try to lift your head off for a moment and then lightly place it back down. So there is your strength supporting you. Now keep your left foot down, raise your right leg up. Maybe you come onto your left tippy toes and try to turn your right toes towards the back of your mat. Hug your inner thighs in towards each other. Lift your lower belly to your spine, and maybe there's a little push off that raises your legs. So if that goes okay, you could consider lifting your left leg up towards your right leg and hug your legs in really firmly. Again, try to control the amount of weight through the top of your head. So your arms are working hard. And then to come away, draw your left foot back down to the mat. Maybe it never left the ground, no problem. And then your right leg follows. Now the release can be child's pose, that's nice and close, or you may feel good to come up to your hands and knees and just to get out of the inversion for a few breaths. Lean forward, bring your elbows down, clasp shoulder width distance apart. Clasp your hands, tuck your toes, look back to your knees, tuck your chin in, bring the top of your head down so the back of your skull meets the base of your thumbs. And then with your toes tucked, roll your shoulders away from your ears, lift your knees, and then if there's space, walk your feet a little closer in towards your elbows. Now raise your left leg up. Each of us has a favorite side, so one or the other. Lift high onto your right toes. If you feel comfortable, you can take a little push off and keep your inner thighs hugging in towards each other. Your left foot turn towards the back of your mat. And if you're comfortable, slowly raise your right leg up. As your legs get closer, hug your inner thighs in towards each other. Okay, so push down through your elbows and hands so you're controlling how much weight is going through the top of your head. Make sure you're breathing. Okay, let's take our left foot down first. Oh, that was opposite, wasn't it? And then your right leg down. That's okay. All right, hands and knees are child's pose. Okay. Now we're going to come to lie on our back. If you have a bolster or a pillow, bring it nearby. And we're going to lie over the bolster and just give lots of space to our chest. So align the bolster with the length of your spine, or again, that could be a pillow, and try to align it so the top end of the bolster comes right to the occipital bones at the base of your skull. So there's just ever so slightly of an extension in your neck, a lean back. Take your arms out nice and wide. And then with your knees bent, just step your feet a little further than hip width distance apart from each other. Feel the soles of your feet on the mat. And then rock your knees very gradually from side to side. Let your neck truly relax. Let your shoulders relax. Chest is wide open. Now, bring your knees back up and walk your feet in towards each other. Turn the soles of your feet to face each other, and then move your knees apart from each other. So we've done lots of work hugging our inner thighs in, and here with your knees wide, you're just allowing a nice release in a reclined bound angle pose. Each time you breathe, try to build your breath up underneath your breastbone. Each time you breathe out, let the exhale feel very complete. One more deep breath.
Traveling through galaxies with me, dog.
Gradually turn your knees in towards each other. And let's come off the bolster. So just slide off to the side, bring it off to one side. So you can lie flat on your back on the mat. And continue with your arms wide. Press down through the soles of your feet and lift your hips up and carry your hips a little off to the left. Rest them down, lift your feet. Oh, actually, a hard block can go between your knees if you wish. We're coming into a reclined twist. Bring your knees down towards the right. Maybe that block goes underneath your right knee too, so the ground comes closer. Your legs can stay as they are, or you can rest your right hand on your left knee and just allow that extra weight to ground you. And extend open through your left shoulder. Breathe in deeply through your nose. Exhale through your mouth and relax your left shoulder down. Press your right arm down firmly, hug your inner thighs in, lift your knees up, place your feet down. Bring your hips across your midline, over to the right, and then lift your feet up, and with control, lower your knees slowly down to the left. And on this side, maybe your left hand comes down to your right knee, and maybe something goes underneath your left knee so the twist isn't quite so deep. Extend open through your right collarbone. Again, let's start it off with a deep clearing breath and inhale. Open your mouth, exhale. few more slow breaths.
Positive.
One more. Take your left arm open and push down. Lift your knees back up. Place your feet down and bring your hips back into the middle of your mat. So if you've got the block, that can go away. We're easing now into Shavasana. So take your time to extend your legs or place something low and soft underneath your knees. And draw your shoulder blades underneath you. Take up space. Open your arms. And allow your body to settle down into the pull of the earth. And when we meet Shavasana, the whole earth is lying behind us, holding us in, supporting us, but all to the front of our body, spreading out into the vastness of space. We are also held. Remember your fingers and your toes. And bring a little bit of movement into those places. Extend your feet off the front of your mat, your hands off the back of your mat. Breathe into a long stretch. And a full exhale. Place the soles of your feet to the mat and roll over to your right side. And bring your left hand down. And slowly lift yourself up to a comfortable seated pose. Just take a few moments to arrange your seat. Okay, so the call of Om, the mantra Om, is actually a representation of the basic vibration of the universe. It is a vibration of space. And so we'll end this practice with our sound of that from our body out into space. So bring your palms together. Let's take a clearing breath. Breathe in and breathe out. Inhale for Om. Namaste.